You end up with a green light there, and it's great.
It's all good. So we don't need to worry about the others.
The others play will deal with the
Okay.
Sounds like you're all happy to see each other again. That's very nice. Welcome. Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarian. Tēnā koutou nā manahiri, no mai, hire mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua. Tēnā koutou tēnā tātou katoa. I think we ought to turn off the slides. No advertising during the service. Welcome to all from near and far to our sanctuary. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. It's an ironic statement. For I say we are all afflicted and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we here find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we here find calm in times of restlessness. May we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be a place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world and move us to act. Come, let us worship together. Lighting this chalice reminds us to take from life its coals, not its ashes, to fan the flames of love and justice, to join hands and hearts in common endeavor. And there will be no limit to what we can achieve together. Let us say together the covenant of our congregation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and our God. Let us stand if able to sing Spirit of Life. Well, we're a little short on. Ivy, you want to come up? Congregation, this is a friend of Kate's, Ivy. These are friends of Kate. Welcome. Good to have you with us. So, have you ever been the only one in a room that thought one way and wanted to do something? Can you think of a time? Kind of a tough question on the spur of the moment. One of the struggles we have as people is just this tall.
10.
And 10. So, you know, but I'm here to tell you that that's not necessarily true. And I want to tell you the story of a woman, actually, she started making a difference as a girl. Her name was Malala. And she has a tough Pakistani name that's hard to say. Actually, it's Pashto, a Pashto name. And I'm going to give it my best shot. Yusufzai. Yeah. Well, they say her name in this. Listen carefully. Maybe you can do better than I did. But I want you to listen to this story, okay? Because it's a pretty cool story.
I was named after a
No, that's not going to help.
Afghani folk hero killed in a battle.
Not sure why we don't have sound there. We'll get there. Hang on. See if that works.
I was named after a girl, an Afghani folk hero who was killed in a battle. Just after I was born, my father got our family tree. It went back 300 years, but not a single girl or woman's name appeared on it. He decided to make me the first. He wrote Malala. That's me.
When her father's school was closed down by the Taliban, Malala Yousafzai began to campaign for the right of young girls across the country to go to school.
I have rights. I have the right of education. I have the right to play. I have the right to sing. I have the right to speak up.
Sorry, the sound is. I don't know why it's doing this.
Surgeons battled to save her life. Vigils took place throughout the world.
Well, let me tell you. She lived in Pakistan. And in Pakistan, and many places in the world, girls don't get to go to school. And so she started fighting for that and speaking out for that. But what happened is, one day, someone shot her in the head. And the whole world prayed for her and held vigils for her. But they were able to save her. And later, she would speak to the UN, the United Nations, at a summit. And later, she became the youngest person to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She was just a young girl in Pakistan. The first name on her family line, family tree, because her father believed in her. So it's a story of one person really can make a difference. Everybody in this room by themselves can make a difference, but everybody together can make a big difference. So that's our story today. All right. So I expect big things from you, Ivy. So, shall we sing you downstairs? Are you going downstairs? Okay. I now invite you to come forward if you have a joy or concern that you wish to share with the congregation. In theory, we're being live streamed, so you might want to keep that in mind as you share your concern.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kay. This is a bit of a long story, but some of you will remember Suja, who was one of the students that we offered sanctuary to about 4 years ago. And he was made an example of. He was picked up by the police, he was taken to the police cells overnight, and he was escorted by police onto his plane and sent off back to India. Clay visited him in the cells, and he describes that as as the most traumatic experience of his life.
My visit, or?
No. Oh, great solace. Great. Anyway, subsequently, an appeal was made to the Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman was only able to follow the paper trail of a few of the students, but one of them was Suja, who was completely exonerated. It was made completely clear there was no reason for him to be deported. He's never had an apology, but he has been allowed back into the country. So he's been here. It hasn't been easy for him. He's been here for 2 years. Anyway, last night Suja's mother died in India, and so this is a candle for Suja and a candle for her, because she knew a lot of grief in her life and worried a lot about her beloved son, and I know that he is missing his family clearly, and I wish her a peaceful journey here on.
Morena, my name is Shireen, and I'm continuing this theme of India and the plight of women. Many of you very generously supported a fundraiser that we did with the support of the PGA, the Peace and Social Justice Committee. In February this year, I held a garden party in my garden, and we raised over $800, which I eventually got sent off to the Preset, which is the organization in Calcutta that I visited in 2019 and saw many women who were given a second chance at life. And this organization was actually set up by 2 New Zealanders, and it continues to have a significant input from other New Zealanders. And I did write to Anthony, who was my contact, another New Zealander, in Freeset. And I got an email from him the other day apologizing that he hadn't quite got back to me soon, but this is what he said. Firstly, thank you for the donation. The money has been moved over and spent. It contributed towards the COVID-19 campaign, where we provided wages, vaccinations, emergency medical care, education for children missing school, and food distribution into our 4 communities, over 20 tons of food. Thank you for contributing to this. He said, I wonder if you received my letter. Well, I didn't, so he's going to send it. And that will give us an update. So when I get that, I'll read it to you. But I want to show you this picture because it's very apt that you should be talking about a young girl and her journey for education in Pakistan. This is a picture of one of his favorite. Well, he says we shouldn't have favorites, but he does have one. This young girl is one of the young girls whose mother is in Free Set. And she says, he says, below is one of my favorite pics of the moment. This young girl is doing so well in school at the moment. She's smashing all the boys in maths, which is unheard of here. She is a bit of a star. So thank you for your contributions, people. And I hope to have another one in February next year. But it's also remembering that these women really are the poorest of the poor. They've often been trafficked from the country areas, and their lives are pretty wretched. And of course, they're very much at risk of COVID in India. So one of joy, but also that element of concern as well.
Good morning, I'm Alex. Once again, I want to welcome back Jenny and Leo. It's good to see you both looking a lot better. Maybe not entirely well, but you're here, which is great. I also like to thank Leo for keeping in touch, because if it were up to Jenny, I wouldn't know if she were dead or alive. But Leo keeps in touch, and I pass on the news, and thank you, Leo. You've been unwell too. Thank you. I'd like to light another candle and share a concern, which I'm sure you all share with me. I've been reading about Afghanistan. Heavens, what a mess. It's just so worrying.
Greetings, my name is Paul. I have a couple of joys. I would like to echo what Alex just said about the return of Jenny and Leo. Very pleased to see that. And my second joy is that you will have noticed that I have an assistant this morning who is helping with the live stream. Yes, give him a good clap, that's great. My joy will be complete if we could get a few more volunteers to turn this into a live streaming team who would, do this job maybe every few weeks or so. That would be great. So come and see me afterwards if you think that would be your bag. Thank you.
I light this candle out of concern for our neighbors over in Australia, especially New South Wales, who have gone into a hard lockdown now. And for all those around the world who are faced with the Delta variant. And for all those thoughts and concerns in our hearts and minds that are unspoken. I'd like to invite our friend Paul. Paul. I'm getting old. Paul, come forward and give an update. Yeah.
Yes, this is just the normal third Sunday update. Of course, Shireen gave us a very interesting update with regard to the preset project, so I obviously won't repeat any of that. But first of all, the quiz on wheels 2 weeks ago went extremely well. Kay did an absolutely fantastic job organizing the fun and very educational car rally. I mean, I've lived in the area for 30 years, and I've learned an enormous amount about the area that I live in, and we all did. And habitats in the local region and at the event's end were enjoyed admirably by all, and especially the hosting in Clay and Rachel's natural habitat. So hopefully we'll do another car rally next year, and even more of you will join in. For Dances of Universal Peace, Sally reports that they had their Sunday night seasonal Dances of Universal Peace and potluck gathering last Sunday night with 18 people attending, 7 of whom were Unitarians, many giving it a go for the first time and wanting to come again. The spring dances and potluck evening will be on Sunday, 26 September, starting at 5 p.m. with the dances. All are welcome. It's great that Sally is able to organize these, and we, of course, encourage you all to attend. Brenda reports for Glen Taylor School and Duffy Books and Homes that on the 9th of July, church members were invited to a special assembly at Glen Taylor School, where the church was thanked by students and staff for our ongoing support for the Duffy Books and Homes program. Angela, who's here today, Gary, and Brenda represented the church at this assembly and helped hand out the books to each class. We were also thanked profusely for our sponsorship in the Help a Kid to Camp campaign, which many of us contributed to. And while there wasn't time to meet up with the children we had sponsored at the assembly, the principal, Chris Herlihy, said he may be able to arrange something for later in the year. Our sponsors received wonderful letters from individual students that went to camp, and we were able to respond to these students by replying to the school address at the top of the letters that we received. The next Duffy Assembly at Glen Taylor School will likely be in September. Finally, I can report for Pacific Dyslexia Aid that we continue in our efforts to collect company laptops and hope to deliver them next year when flights are possible. Fortunately, both Tonga and Samoa remain free of community transmission of COVID. Tonga, with a population of just over 107,000, has administered close to 60,000 vaccine doses. Samoa, with a population of just under 200,000, has administered just over 100,000 doses. So they are well on their way towards vaccination, which is great. Like us, they continue to dodge the bullets that are wreaking devastation in so many other countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Our first reading today is To Savor the World or Save It. E.B. White wrote, "It's hard to know when to respond to the seductiveness of the world and when to respond to its challenge. If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If it were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I arise in the morning torn between the desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan the day." Richard Gilbert goes on to say, "I rise in the morning torn between the desire to save the world or savor it, to serve life or to enjoy it, to savor the sweet taste of my own joy or to share the bitter cup of my neighbor, to celebrate life with exuberant step or to struggle for the life of the heavy laden. What am I to do when the guilt at my bounty clouds the sky of my vision? When the glow which lights my everyday illumines the hurting world around me? To savor the world or save it? God of justice, if such there be, take from me the burden of my question. Let me praise my plenitude without limit. Let me cast from my eyes all troubled folk. No, you will not let me be. You will not stop my ears. To the cries of the hurt and the hungry, you will not close my eyes to the sight of the afflicted. What is it that you say? To save, one must serve. To savor, one must save. The one will not stand without the other. Forgive my preoccupation with myself. In my concern for my own life, I had forgotten. Forgive me and make me whole. Let us now stand, if able, to sing our Koha Hymn, and it's around. So we'll sing it once in unison, and then Frank's side of the church will begin, and then we'll come in on the second line on this side. I have a second reading that I couldn't resist this morning called Fierce Urgency by Ashley Horn. My 4-year-old daughter has taught me this lesson. When a child wants to derail business as usual, to curb the hubris of adults who dare believe in schedules and plans and productivity, one fierce little body and one clear, piercing voice, strategically applied to the right pressure point, will change the course of the day's events. My comrades in organizing have taught me this lesson. When a silenced people want to be heard, to raise from dry bones a living, breathing dream of new ways of moving, being, incarnating freedom, one small, tenacious group whose hearts beat in rhythm, rising shoulder to shoulder against the inevitable, will bend the arc from impossibility to hope. Our young climate leaders are teaching us this lesson. When the grown-ups and the old movements are too slow, as the sea level rise and the hurricanes rage and the migrants flee and the corporations profit, one generation, both young and silent, refusing to accept an inheritance of doom, will take toward the streets and move us toward life. Blessing upon them as they teach us, organize us, beckon us, and call us out. May their fierce urgency and uncompromising clarity show us the path towards healing and freedom and hope. You may remember the movie The Perfect Storm that came out in the year 2000. It was about a real storm in 1991. A variety of factors came together to create a hurricane that was never named. In the northern hemisphere, hurricanes form in the tropics and move north. This hurricane started as a nor'easter that became a hurricane that formed off the Atlantic coast of Canada and New England, and then moved south, causing considerable damage and loss of life. The term perfect storm was coined by journalist Sebastian Junger after a conversation with Boston meteorologist Robert Case, in which Case described the convergence of weather conditions as being perfect for the formation of such a storm. It has entered our lexicon to describe an especially bad situation caused by a combination of unfavorable circumstances. It certainly applies to our new reality. Two of the unfavorable circumstances are the recent surge in the Delta variant of COVID-19, and even worse, the growing but irrational desire to return to a pre-pandemic normal, as even more deadly variants are evolving. The normal people long for is a clear and present danger to ourselves and the planet. The normal includes our failure for decades to take climate change seriously. That normal is described in the epic, it's got a long title, AR6 Climate Change 2021 Sixth Assessment Report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, released this month. Normal is beginning to look like the eye of a perfect storm. A recent News Hub article detailed Kiwi scientists' characterization of the report as frank and blunt, sobering and authoritative, and nothing but bad news. New Zealand won't escape the effects of the warming climate, were mentioned dozens of times in the report. Our mean temperature has increased about 1.1 degrees centigrade since records began at the beginning of the industrial age, with human influence the dominant driver. Decreases in snow and ice or increases in river flooding will affect sectors such as winter tourism, energy production, river transport, and infrastructure. And that's just with 2 degrees centigrade of warming compared to industrial times, which we are likely to reach in just 30 years at the present rate. So when little Ivy is 40, that will be her world. Fire weather is projected to increase through Australia and New Zealand, again with just 2 degrees of centigrade of warming. Snowfall is expected to decrease throughout the region at high altitudes in both Australia and New Zealand, with glaciers receding in New Zealand. Wellington and Dunedin in particular will become far more at risk of fires. The south and west of the country will likely get wetter, while the north and east dry up. Agricultural and ecological droughts will be more common. Landslides will be more likely in the South Island and eastern half of the North Island, thanks to total precipitation rates, precipitation intensity, mountain permafrost thaw rates, glacier retreat, and air temperature. And there will be a continuing reduction of snowfall during the 21st century. From 2030, areas below 1,500 meters will likely go without snow for entire years. As mean sea level rise is projected to continue for at least several more centuries, there is a very high confidence that this will lead to large increases in the frequency of extreme sea levels in Australia and New Zealand. Many New Zealanders were involved in the science behind the report as well as in writing it. One of those, Bronwyn Hayward, said that the report showed that things are getting worse much faster than the same report's 2018 report. The report doesn't put a precise date on when we know we have crossed the dangerous threshold of 1.5 degrees of Celsius of warming, but says unless we make far-reaching change, this will occur over the next 20 years. So Ivy will be 30, using average temperatures. This will expose many more people and our natural environment to even more devastating consequences, including intense flooding, storms, unprecedented droughts, and fires. Kiwi cities are particularly at risk, she said, as hotspots where the experience of localized heat and flooding will be more intense than global averages. This matters because cities in New Zealand are already home to nearly 90% of our population. She said it was time to stop magical thinking, that technology would solve the problem before it is too late. Ian White, a professor of environmental planning at the University of Waikato, thought he was desensitized to alarming climate reports before sitting down to read this latest one. He said the emissions reduction plan the government is required to deliver by the end of this year will be vitally important, but as skeptical authorities will act with enough urgency. At the same time as politicians in Wellington react to this report with concern, climate advocacy groups are suing Auckland Transport and Auckland Council over a long-term land transport plan that fails to reduce emissions. It is a sign that our institutions helped create the current situation, and action may involve new governance structures or fundamental changes to leadership, budgets, or sectors. He also pointed to locals who oppose efforts to make streets safer and better for cyclists and pedestrians over cars. If anyone is in doubt at the scale of the challenge, reflect on how hard it was to reorient just a few individual streets towards walking and cycling during the innovating street trial. 'Street trial' is a Now do that to a city. Nick Craddock-Henry, or Craddock, a scientist at Landcare Research, said, drought was now Aotearoa, New Zealand's costliest hazard, with economic and social implications for rural communities. And the report predicts things will only get worse, and farmers need to adapt as well as cut emissions. Mitigation will be insufficient to address the changes in climate presented here. To ensure sustainable long-term futures for Aotearoa, New Zealand, the report is a stark reminder of the need for adaptation. Adaptation will require strategic and even radical adjustments to practices, processes, capital, and infrastructure in response to climate change, and must begin now. Sarah Mikola-Fletcher said New Zealand's strategy of offsetting carbon emissions with new forests will become increasingly infeasible. Models predict extreme temperatures and drought brought on by climate change will weaken the ability of forests and other green spaces to absorb carbon dioxide. This is particularly significant for Aotearoa, New Zealand, because our forests and land use offsets roughly a third of our total greenhouse gas emissions. Just lost my document. Sorry. We will resume shortly. Like COVID, climate change is affecting every country on the planet. Unlike with COVID, New Zealand cannot create a fortress that will protect us from its devastation. I know it feels overwhelming, easy to turn our minds off, defeated. And we don't have much time to do what we can. But Unitarians need to be in the thick of it. We are good at rabble-rousing. It is part of our spiritual DNA. We know that if we stand and silently watch the world go by, it will. Our Peace and Social Justice Committee is doing some wonderful work, we heard from Paul, on key areas of need in our community and in Oceania. But I would like to propose that we create, in addition, a climate action team. We have both expertise and passion to contribute. They would be focused on education both within and outside our community, creating alliances with other faith groups, treaty partners, NGOs that share our passion, and planning events to advocate for or to lobby local and national political leaders to take climate change as deadly serious and respond more quickly in the hope that we are able to weather this storm. If you're interested in being part of such a team, email me. You can go to the website, and there's a form. You can just send an email to me. And I'll organize a meeting with all those who share your passion. And if you're watching this from far away from Auckland, thanks to Zoom, you could join the team as well. Blessed be. I now invite you to stand for our closing hymn. Please join me now in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not by truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now it's that time for notices.
Kia ora koutou, my name's Rachel, standing in for Mark Swift. I sent the duty roster around. If you didn't have a chance to put your name down for anything, you can flip the page over during morning tea and have a look at what you might be able to commit to next month. Kia ora koutou.
A few years ago, I can't remember, about 2 or 3, is this on?
Yeah.
Yep. Our Wayne Facer wrote a book called A Vision Splendid, and we had the book launch at the church here. Now, Wayne has so generously donated all of the income from those sales to the church, and it amounted to several $1,000s. Now, Wayne has written a new book, and the launch will be on the 18th of September. I just want to read you a little bit about the book itself, because it's of a wonderful Unitarian. His name was Norman Murray Bell, and he lived from 1887 to 1962. And this is the blurb from the book. He may be regarded as a prophet, a person who speaks in a visionary way about a cause. His cause was peace. His life provides a window into the peace movement in New Zealand, particularly during the period between the 2 world wars. Now, he was a highly educated man. He did a BA and an MA in classics
in chemistry, and he won a scholarship to Trinity College and Cambridge University, and he taught in various universities, both in the UK and in Switzerland. He returned to New Zealand in 1917, and he became known as a religious objector. He did have a tenure as a teacher, but it was very short-lived because he was convicted of disobeying lawful commands given by a superior officer and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment with hard labour. Now, I won't go mentioning all of the things in this blurb, but he was a great campaigner for peace, and I think one of the most important things is, in terms of Unitarians, he went on to take over the Christchurch church, the Unitarian church there, and he changed the church into the free religious movement, the most radical form of Unitarianism. So he is one of our heroes. So please come to the book launch. But more importantly, I'm the one who's organising most of the book launch. So I need helpers. So I need helpers to set up, to clean up, and to help with food, to take the money for the book sales, if people still have cash. I've got lots of tasks, so please come and see me. I shall probably be shoulder tapping you. Thank you.
It's time to sort through your bras. Again, women and men, you know who you are. We want the bra filled, the bag filled with old bras. They get sent up to Fiji. I don't know when they will be sent up to Fiji, but they will be sent up sometime in the future.
Do you feel like I did the first time as a young man and I was sent to buy Tampax for my mother?
Hi, as you know, I do the bookings for the church, so I need to let you know that some of what it's been booked for, like next Sunday, there will be, the Civic Trust has actually booked it in the afternoon to do a historic talk. On the 27th of, the following Friday, there's going to be an art exhibition here on the Friday and the Saturday. Parasite Gallery, which supports the LGBTQI community, was down in K Road. It's been moved because they're doing renovations, and they have an opening exhibition on the 27th, and they'll be doing it in here, and as well as on the Saturday. They'll be out at 3 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock there'll be people in here setting up for a public concert that evening. So it's got a few things going the next week. I'll give Rachel the details during the week and go in the newsletter.
Great. Shame we're not getting used. My closing words. Do not fear agitation, for agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter what you always thought permanent. You carry within the center of your understanding the compass to show you the way. Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings, and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love.